There's not a clone of another application, but the latter is an innovative product that the world would marvel at. But if you look at MySpace, if you look at YouTube, if you look at most of the web applications that have really blown up and become successful, all of them have been developed by local teams. Why is that? If you go to Starbucks in Palo Alto, particularly Starbucks at 276 University Avenue, if you sit there for 3 hours, you will meet 12 people who think they're Mark Zuckerberg. 12 people who have that killer idea, and a few of them will actually succeed. Yet, until now, very few of them have even tried, or definitely have not succeeded wildly with a team in India. And so that brings me back to can you build Facebook in Bangalore? So I'm going to start now, and this panel is going to work. The presentation will actually go on, but I'm going to start by involving the panelists in a few questions that I want to ask. Now, normally when I give this presentation, I'll actually go through a history of outsourcing, starting at Y2K, or even back to when Indians invented the zero. But today, because of the audience and because it's time, I don't feel I need to do that. So I'm going to get right into the nitty-gritty, and I want to give these guys a chance to talk. So I'm going to get into the first question, which is generic, ambiguous, and probably a bit abrasive on purpose. Do Indians innovate? The Y2K, emphasis, Wipro, so whatever your opinion may be, a lot of the time we feel like we're looking for automatons who will get our work done quickly, easily, without asking too many questions, and follow the scope doc to a T. And so with that, I'm going to open this up, and I want to actually ask this first question to panelists who are developing products of their own. So Munjal, if you would start, and then maybe Rashmi, you can follow up with a few comments.
So, I mean, do Indians innovate? I mean, obviously they do. I think that's the short answer. But I think that one of the hard things you find in India, in the IT culture, is a risk aversion. I mean, startups in India are different than startups here. So much of my opinion comes from the fact of kind of my belief of doing a startup in India is different than putting a division of Microsoft in India. We've found consistently that people are so risk averse that here you go to a startup, you take a lower pay and a stock package to compensate. There, startups pay market or sometimes above market, and stock is discounted. In fact, I tell people if you're really going to get stock in India, give as much as you need to, because A, with efficient as it is, most people aren't going to vest for 1 year. And second, when you actually convert it, the amount of money you have to pay to exercise is pretty low. But it means that very few are going to exercise. But fundamentally, startups have to pay a premium. And there's I'm an advisor to a company called Pragmatic, which just set up a team in Pune. And the CEO that I was telling you about a story, he was trying to recruit this guy to come join the company, and the guy was at Microsoft. And the guy had just gotten engaged. And literally, the example he gave was, I'm afraid if I leave Microsoft, the girl's parents will break off the engagement. For those of you from India, you know that's actually not a non-zero probability. And so it's the whole culture. And, you know, I've literally had to meet parents before. So it wasn't just RIA we did in India. I started in really in 2001 with my last company, On the Way, where we went from 0 to 150 people, and I spent 6 months there. And so I've seen this for a long time and built a team there for a long time. But people are risk averse in joining startups, and I think that for whatever reason, be it because of parents or their own issues, and I think that just leads to less risk taking to join companies and to form them. And it doesn't mean they're not innovative; it just means just fewer of them do.
So I would say definitely Indians innovate, but there is a difference, I think, culturally in how we think about innovation. And just not talking about technology for a moment, I remember when I first came to the U.S. and I saw they have these 15 types of hammers, or maybe even more. You go to Home Depot and there's a hammer for every need. And in India, you barely have one hammer. So here you see a need, you design exactly the right thing. So I think there is a difference overall in the culture of innovation and in meeting the right that particular need in exactly the right manner. But apart from that, I think it depends on the type of people you hire. And, we have really tried to hire people who are already innovating. They have a web presence. They've tried to put out the small web app. And, they've tried to contribute to an open source application. We have someone who, when he joined us, his father asked him, how am I going to get you married? He did join us. He's still with us. So I think it depends, it depends on the type of people, and you have to go out and recruit those type of people. We hardly have we have maybe one person from an IIT. IIT people refuse to join us because they have these offers from these Googles and the Microsofts of the world, and they get paid a lot, and they're all really risk averse. Not so the boy from this small college in Urita who has created a website and has put up his software, and he's really trying to work in a startup. So I think you have to go out and look for them, but the tide is turning and you can find them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think culturally what you have to understand is that when you're faced, after studying your butt off for years to make it to the Indian education system, you're suddenly faced with the prospect of making more money in 1 year than your dad, your grandpa, or his dad made for 10 years during their career. The idea that they're risk-averse might be nuanced by the fact that the opportunities they're getting and the chances that they currently have, it's almost impossible to pass up for a lot of people. It's different than here where making it big or respecting someone like a Jeff Bezos or a Steve Jobs is really ingrained in part of our DNA already. This is just one more comic. And another point that we can make very quickly is that there is also a culture within most companies which sometimes equates butt time to good. It also equates working hard, keeping your head down, being dedicated to exactly what the spec doc says, regardless of whether it's the best idea, is actually the right value to have. Next question, and I'm actually going to come back to you with this again, Rashmi, is usability and product. So one thing that anyone who's run an offshore team for a while will understand very fundamentally is that every fish swims in a different pond. And I apologize for the bad metaphor, but what that means is that they're not designing. If you try to build Facebook in Bangalore, we don't have anyone who's been part of college culture in the U.S. who actually understands what kind of flirtation needs to go on in a social networking application. They're not going to get it. More importantly, with this culture of following spec documentation and making sure that you understand what the client wants and then following that to a T, you often get developers who are so dedicated to that that they start missing the point of what the product is supposed to do in the first place. So with that, Rashmi, I'll turn to you again.
So we don't believe in the spec culture at all. We have agile methods, and we start out with conceptualization, pass over some initial conceptualizations, and brainstorm with the team. And one thing that we have done very differently is that we have a design team in India as well. And we think that's extremely important to have both designers and developers in India. If you go and look at SlideShare, if you try to use SlideShare, it's world class. It could be built anywhere. It's very well done, although I say for myself. But it's because design is, as a company, we take design very seriously. And, even sometimes we do usability testing in Delhi where our team is based. With our first product, we did the cafe usability testing where we go to these cafes and find people. And our developers did that. Some of them, participated in that. So we take the whole thing very seriously. And I think there is design talent in India. You just have to go and find them. They're not as easy to find as we find them in the U.S. But it's a growing movement.
And Rashmi, when we spoke earlier, you were also talking about how many of the developers and designers you have on staff, they're actually members of the community. So they're working and playing in SlideShare pretty regularly.
Yeah, so I think that's true. When you say, can you build Facebook in India? Even if you could build it very well, that Facebook would reflect India. Mm-hmm. If you go and hang around SlideShare, you will notice an Indianness to it. Sometimes it will pop up in the text or the error messages, the typical Indian style of writing. Or sometimes you'll see some of the very active users. I mean, our developers are the most active users. They often pop pop up in the top uploads of the day and so on. And, their interactions with everyone, the community, the way the community is trained, you will see that reflected, and you have to just embrace